Do you ever read something and it's just completely different from what you thought it would be, and so much better? I read Jurassic Park and I loved it. Okay, so some quick backstory on this. I am a complete Jurassic Park newbie. I have never watched any of the movies, never read any of the books, completely new to it. Obviously, I'm kind of aware of it because everybody is. I knew that it was about a dinosaur theme park gone horribly wrong, and I've seen all of the movie trailers with the dinosaurs chasing people around and whatnot, but I had very little familiarity with it. But I've been seeing, ads for the new movie that's going to be coming out, and I got curious. And being the book nerd that I am, what did I do? I read the book. It was so good. It was so different from what I thought it would be too. I expected a lot of running and screaming and dinosaurs chasing people around and eating people, and yes, there definitely is that. I did not expect so much science, and I did not expect to feel like I was reading Dracula. Okay, so let's talk about why I felt like I was reading Dracula, because that seems like a weird thing to say. One is a 19th century Gothic novel about vampires. The other is a 20th century science fiction novel about dinosaurs. But the beginnings of them, the way that they start just in the ordinary world where everything is normal and the main characters are just going about their day-to-day business, and it tells from multiple points of view what's going on, and you start to see tiny things that don't line up that indicate that there is something horribly wrong. Yeah, that's how Dracula starts, and that's how Jurassic Park starts. So as I'm reading the part where the doctor in the hospital in Costa Rica is looking at this injury and she's like, that is an animal bite. And they're like, no, it's a construction accident. And her assistant is like, just totally freaked out. And everybody seems to know that there's something a little bit wrong, but nobody will quite say. And she hears the word raptor and doesn't immediately think of a dinosaur. And I'm just going, this is just like when they couldn't figure out Dracula was a vampire. And it goes on like that. There are several characters that see either a child's drawing of a dinosaur or a dinosaur bite or things like that that can't put the pieces together and figure out dinosaur because, why would you think dinosaur when, this is the 20th century and they've been extinct for a very long time? I really actually enjoyed that build-up. It definitely starts very slow compared to what I might have expected, but I love the build-up to the revelation that they have cloned dinosaurs. And I actually really liked how much science there was, too. A huge portion of the book is dedicated to explaining how they created the dinosaurs and, all of the ins and outs of the process and all of the things that they did, like making sure that they're all female and the lysine thing and all of that. It's all explained in huge amounts of depth, which I thought was really interesting. I'm not a scientist. I'm a book nerd. I don't know the first thing about what it would actually take to clone dinosaurs from fossilized DNA, but I did really appreciate the effort to explain it all, and based on some just internet searches that I've done and whatnot, a very preliminary tip of the iceberg type searching, but it does seem like a lot of it was plausible at the time at least. So I think that that's great, and I wouldn't have expected that. Really, basically what I was expecting was a lot of running and screaming. But before that, we have these experts. There's a mathematician, there's a computer science person, there are a paleontologist and a paleobotanist. They're all on this tour of Jurassic Park, along with Hammond's grandkids. I had this moment when Hammond invited his grandkids when I'm just like, okay, every expert in the room is telling you there is probably something very wrong with your park. It is not safe, it needs to be investigated. And what do? You invite your grandkids. Shame on you, dude. What's the deal? But, that's how it works because we have to have the kids around for the main character to protect, and I get that. I do. Just, why would you invite your grandkids? The tour I actually thought was very interesting. Seeing all of the dinosaurs and how it was set up, and even the early signs that something's not right, like dinosaurs getting sick and stuff like that. I think the book makes it very clear that dinosaurs are not really meant to live in the present day. They're not compatible with the environment, and we don't know how to meet their needs. And so the ethical question of whether it is okay to do something like Jurassic Park doesn't just come down to whether the dinosaurs are dangerous, which, yes, they are, but it also comes down to the question of, is it ethical to create a creature that went extinct a long time ago and that's no longer adapted to the modern world? Things like the sixth Stegosaurus and the character who tells Hammond about all of the things that have gone wrong that are not even down to the dinosaurs being dangerous, but more like having skin conditions, getting sick, just not coping very well in their 20th century environment. I thought that that was very interesting and very well done. The beginnings of how it all goes wrong, I think, are very interesting as well. I was kind of expecting just, a technological failure or whatever, but with it being intentional sabotage, that works so much better, I think. The idea that someone would intentionally put out all of the security systems and whatnot because they're angry at their employer for not getting paid enough, on the one hand, that's terrible, and, you're putting a lot of other people's lives at risk, but then on the other hand, I can see it. And I think adding that human element to why it all went wrong adds something to the story, rather than it just being a glitch in the system or a very smart raptor getting around security precautions or whatever. I did think it was interesting that the characters that were the most kind of morally reprehensible were the ones that died the horrific deaths, whereas the ones that were more sympathetic either made it out alive, or at least what happened to them wasn't quite as horrifying as what happened to Nedry or Hammond, for instance. That's a bit convenient, but I do understand that it's fiction and that there are characters that you want to see survive and characters that kind of had it coming. Obviously, there are some scientific inaccuracies. The big one that I'm aware of is the size of the velociraptors. They're way too big. They shouldn't be the same height as a person. They should be about the size of a turkey, actually. That doesn't mean, of course, that they wouldn't be dangerous if they were their actual size, because there are smaller dinosaurs in the park that also are dangerous. But having them be about the size and weight of a human being, that is scientifically inaccurate. I'm sure that there are also other scientific inaccuracies, either just in general or because this book is rather old and we have learned more about the past and about all of the scientific fields that it brings in than what was known at that time. I also watched the movie, just the first one. I haven't decided whether I'm going to watch any more of the movies yet, but I did enjoy the first movie. I thought it was kind of unfortunate that it cut a lot of the science and really focused on the dinosaurs attacking people part of it, but that is more of what I expected, so I wasn't surprised. I didn't love what they did with the character of Hammond. I thought it worked better in the book, where he was like this corrupt CEO type who just wanted to make a profit and didn't really care who got hurt or whether the end result was positive, as opposed to just this likable old grandfatherly figure that wants to do something nice for kids. I don't know, I really liked the idea that he just didn't listen to any of the experts and didn't care about anything other than making a profit. It felt very realistic and made sense with how badly everything went wrong. I feel like the movie does lean more towards this was an okay idea, but it went terribly wrong, whereas the book makes it very clear that it was a bad idea that never would have worked out for a variety of reasons. I really enjoyed it though. This is not a short book. I mean, granted, I've read much longer, but it is, let's see, almost 500 pages. And I read it in a day. I read it in less than a day, actually. And it wasn't always a light read. There were pages of computer code and long scientific explanations and things like that. But I really got caught up in it. And that's one of the things that I love the most about reading, getting caught up in a good story and just not being able to take your eyes off of it. And all of a sudden, it's 5 hours later and you're finished with the book. And it's like coming back from Narnia or something. I love that about reading, so, whenever a book does that for me, usually I come away with a pretty positive impression of the book. Aside from Dracula, which I mentioned earlier, there's another 19th century Gothic novel that Jurassic Park also reminds me a huge amount of, and that is Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. Both Frankenstein and Jurassic Park deal with scientists that want to create life through artificial means. They go into it with varying degrees of good intentions, but in both cases it goes terribly wrong. And although they're separated by almost 200 years, both novels ask the question of, is it okay to do this? Should scientists play God? Should scientists create life artificially? Particularly, should scientists create things that have the potential to be dangerous? And if so, who's responsible for it? The person that created it, or the creature that's just what it was made to be? Who's the real monster? The creature or Victor Frankenstein? Who's the real villain of Jurassic Park? The Tyrannosaurus? The raptor pack? I don't think so. Those come across more as dangerous forces of nature. It's Hammond who insisted on creating these creatures and didn't listen to experts who said that his work was too dangerous and that someone would get hurt. And it's Nedry who sabotages the system and puts a lot of people's lives at risk in order to make a profit. The dinosaurs are just animals following their instincts, doing what they were designed to do. It's the people that really make Jurassic Park horrifying.